Last night's SummerSlam officially in the books and a pretty monumental show. I had a lot of fun watching it, honestly sped by. We're going to break it all down, give my thoughts, and of course that huge shocker of an ending. So let's get into this video. Alright, you guys know how I do my reviews here on the channel. I am not your really in-depth, move-by-move breakdown guy of matches. I'm not giving matches three and a half star, whatever. I can't even get it out. Stars on the fantasy ratings. I don't do that. It's good. It's bad. It's alright. It's great. It sucked. Like, I'm very cut and dry with my match opinions, but there's a lot of storyline stuff to break down on this show, which is what I am a fan of talking about. And we're not going to waste any time. We are going to jump into the main event and just work our way across the rest of the show. We had tribal combat, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And you know, we didn't really know how this ending was going to go about. I think a lot of us assumed, as I predicted, that Roman Reigns was going to wipe the floor with Jey Uso when it came to the result, but how we got there was kind of up in the air. And I threw out, just honestly on a limb, there was zero rumors about this happening. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago here on the channel, where I said, you know, what if Jey Uso returned at SummerSlam, which I thought either way he was going to make an appearance. Jey Uso returns at SummerSlam, but he turns his back on Jey. And I know a lot of people, you know, let me save that rant. We're going a little bit of discussion here, but that's exactly what happened. Just out of the blue, I somehow called it. You know, I'm not saying like, oh, I somehow called it with my nose in the air, but it was just cool to say like, hey, I actually saw it coming. But Roman and Jey had a nice long match. I thought they had some awesome spots in there, especially the Samoan drop to the outside through the table. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out because I thought it was really well. Of course, really well done. Solo Sikoa obviously got involved. A lot of chaos. Tribal combat, it was what you would expect in a Roman Reigns matchup. But of course, the ending is what I'm here to talk about. Jey, I believe he super kicked Solo Sikoa. I believe there was a super kick on Roman, and I think he hit the Samoan splash, or Uso splash, whatever you want to call it, on Roman Reigns. He was about to defeat Roman Reigns and become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion until he gets pulled out of the ring by a masked man, if you will, and it ends up being Jey Uso. Super kick to his brother, rolls him back into the ring, and then Roman ends up spearing Jey through a table that was propped up in the corner earlier in the matchup. Roman Reigns retains the championship thanks to the help of Jey Uso. And man, does there seem to be a lot of discourse, if you will, on social media. A lot of people like me like it. A lot of people seem to hate it. A lot of people seem to not understand it. I got a lot of thoughts on this whole Jey Uso thing, and honestly just the whole Roman Reigns and bloodline stuff as a whole. You know, out of nowhere, and listen, some may say this has been happening, this, that, and the other, but to me it seemed out of nowhere over the last 24 hours, ever since Jey Uso turned on Jey. Suddenly the bloodline storyline is stale. Suddenly, you know, everyone wants Roman Reigns to drop the title immediately. Suddenly everything's going to hell. All this everyone was talking about cinema for months, and now they didn't like the result of one matchup, and now it's all in the mud. Suddenly everybody's opinion switched up in the last 24 hours. Typical social media in the wrestling community. Let's start with Jey Uso turning on Jey. I absolutely love the decision, and here's why I love the decision. And I'll talk about how, well, you know what? I'm gonna jump around here, excuse me. There's a lot of people on social media saying it doesn't make any sense. Listen, it's one thing if you don't like Jimmy turning on Jey, but it's a whole nother thing if it makes sense. It makes perfect sense why Jey Uso turned on Jey. Does Jimmy have his problems with Roman? Yes. Does this mean that Jimmy's back on Roman Reigns' side? Not necessarily. You can have an issue with both guys and just be, you know, a bystander, if you will. But they literally planted the seeds for Jey Uso to turn on Jey back when Jey turned on Roman Reigns. And somebody's gonna say, well, Jimmy was the one who caused the whole situation by him super kicking Roman. Again, Jimmy has problems with both guys. Just because he helped Roman Reigns in a sense last night doesn't mean his problems are done. But he has a bigger issue with Jey because, yeah, Roman's his cousin, Roman's the tribal chief, this, that, and the other, but Jey's his twin brother. You know that connection means more to Jimmy if we're really breaking this down from a storyline perspective. And again, they set the stage for Jimmy turning on Jey all the weeks ago, over a month ago, whenever it was, when Jey was running down Jey Uso. You never wanted me to be main event Jey. You never wanted me to go on my own. I was always competing with you, this, that, and the other. When I had the opportunity to be main event Jey Uso, be the right-hand man to Roman Reigns, who was the one guy who didn't want that to happen? You, Jey Uso. And obviously that ended up leading to Jey still kicking himself out of the bloodline, and we got the Usos versus Roman and Solo, Money in the Bank. But then what happened after that? Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa absolutely dismantled Jey Uso in Madison Square Garden, and we don't see see Jimmy Uso up until last night, and I literally was saying this in my video that I made just speculating that this might happen. Jimmy might come back pissed off at Jey because Jey took the opportunity while he was out to go get a championship match, to go be main event Jey Uso. He used Jimmy Uso being on the shelf to catapult his own career, to get that main event spot, to get a chance at the title, all this stuff. And he also could look at Money in the Bank. Jey's the guy who got the pin, but Jimmy Uso could easily be like, well, I was part of that team. Where's my championship match? You know, all this stuff that a heel Jimmy Uso could just bombard his babyface brother with. It makes the most sense in the world to me. And again, I will reiterate, does that mean Jimmy has his problems settled with Roman Reigns and he's going to be back helping the tribal chief? I do not think so at all. I think last night even furthered the separation between all 4 members of the former bloodline. Solo Sikoa, I think in a matter of months, is going to be away from Roman Reigns. By the time Survivor Series rolls around, we very well may get a fatal 4-way match between all former members of the bloodline: Roman, Solo, Jey, and Jimmy for the Undisputed Universal Championship. And will anybody but Roman Reigns have a shot at leaving with the title? Absolutely not, but it'd be a hell of a matchup to see. And the other big reason why I think this also makes the most sense in the world is, let's really break things down with just the Usos specifically. Eventually they were going to be done with Roman Reigns, whether it was SummerSlam, Payback, Survivor Series, whatever it was going to be. Eventually they were going to be done wrestling and feuding with Roman Reigns. They can't fight their cousin forever. It's either get back on the same side as them or eventually do something yourself. And Jey, or especially not Jimmy, but Jey was never winning the Undisputed Universal Championship. He was going to lose inevitably one way or another at SummerSlam. So eventually when the Usos were done with the bloodline, what's next for the Usos? They are at the hottest spot they have ever been, especially Jey Uso as one of the hottest baby faces in the entire company. And just after, you're only going to capitalize on that for what? One SummerSlam main event, maybe one more matchup, and then what? The Usos are just going to go back to being the tag team champions. They already are the longest reigning champs of all time. They've been there, they've done that. They're going to go back to Roman Reigns and just be by Roman's guy, you know, be by Roman's side, be his henchman again. They've been there, done that. Jey and Jimmy have done it all as a tag team. They main evented WrestleMania. Where are they going to go? Oh, just go do it again. Jey and Jimmy have done it all as tag team champions, or just as a tag team in general. The best thing that WWE could have done with the Usos is split them apart. Jey has proven he can be a singles guy, and by default, Jimmy Uso will be a singles guy as well. And no, Jimmy will not be some Marty Jannetty of the Usos. Is Jey obviously the guy if you want to pin somebody as the guy? Yes, but Jimmy Uso can obviously hold his own, and I believe we are about to see that in a one-on-one feud with Jey Uso. And listen, I think we're probably going to get this matchup one-on-one and maybe the main event of Payback, especially if Roman Reigns is not on the show, which I don't believe he is going to be. But this is a feud that I very much think they should stretch out all the way till WrestleMania 40, and Jey versus Jimmy is going to be one of the biggest matches on WrestleMania 40, whether it's night 1 or night 2. And Jey does not defeat Jimmy Uso. Jey does not get his ultimate revenge over his brother until that night. And it very well could be that night where Jey defeats Jimmy and then they come back together. They settle their differences and then they go team again. Whatever it is, but Jey versus Jimmy at this stage in their careers with this level of popularity was bound to happen. And how people are suddenly saying it doesn't make any sense, we don't want to see it, this, that, and the other. Everybody's switching up. I don't get it at all. I thought last night they had a excellent ending to SummerSlam, excellent ending to the Jey versus Roman matchup. And listen, Roman is not losing that championship until he fights Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, and he very well could go past WrestleMania 40 as the champion. But I don't care if it wasn't never going to be Jey, is what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be Jimmy. It's not going to be Solo before WrestleMania. If Solo fights Roman at WrestleMania, excuse me, he's got a shot. But like, that's just not going to happen. Listen, Fatal 4-Way, give me that at Survivor Series. Give me Jey versus Jimmy at Payback if you want. Save it till WrestleMania. Whatever you want to do. I loved what they did last night. You got no complaints out of me. I don't know what else I can say. I thought it was great. And I think it's only going to get better. There's going to be more explanations, more discussions on this whole storyline here on the channel, so stay tuned. I thought it was great, man. And you know, one thing I just said, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40. If last night didn't show you that Cody Rhodes is the next guy up, then I don't know what will, man. This last week was the week of Cody Rhodes. First, the American Nightmare Becoming Cody Rhodes documentary drops on Peacock last Monday. It was an absolutely amazing documentary that literally left on the cliffhanger of Cody Rhodes becoming the WWE champion. And then last night, we get a really good matchup with Brock Lesnar in my eyes. The best match they've had. Obviously, I was also confused that Cody used the steel steps in the match and didn't get a disqualification, but I guess referee's discretion goes in this level of matchup is what they would try to pass off, so whatever. over. Cody hit a beautiful Cody cutter, eventually beat Brock Lesnar. It was an awesome matchup. And again, Cody came out on top, as he should have, in the third and final match between him and Lesnar. But if the aftermath of that match didn't flat out tell you that Cody is the guy, I don't know what will. Brock Lesnar raising the hand of Cody Rhodes, shaking his hand, putting him over. Cody Rhodes has got that Lesnar endorsement. He's got that John Cena endorsement. And Cody is just going to keep steamrolling, keeping the momentum high until he fights Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and Cody will be the guy. If last night didn't tell you that, I don't know what will, but strap in, because Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 40 is going to be one hell of a ride. I honestly don't got too much to discuss for the rest of this pay-per-view. A lot of it was just Jey and Roman for me. Not saying the rest of it was bad by any means. I overall enjoyed this show, but we're just going to kind of run through some of this stuff. Logan Paul and Ricochet kicking off the show. Thought it was a really fun matchup. A lot of athletic spots, as we mentioned, and I like Logan Paul getting the win. I think it was a much-needed victory for Logan Paul, considering he hasn't won since last year's SummerSlam. He lost to Roman, lost in the Rumble, lost to Seth Rollins at Mania, and lost at Money in the Bank. So I think Logan Paul, much needed win, if you will. And I will say, man, I hope Ricochet turned some heads last night, and hopefully he continues to be not only just on weekly television, because either way, he's pretty much always on weekly television, whether he's on SmackDown or now that he's been on Monday Night Raw the last few months. But hopefully Ricochet continues to be in some kind of prominent role. I know him and Gunther have history. Obviously, Gunther was the guy who defeated Ricochet to kick off this Intercontinental Championship reign, but I would love for Ricochet and Gunther to run it back one more time, maybe at Payback. All remains to be seen, but it was a great match to kick things off. I'm very interested to see where both guys go in the future on Monday Night Raw. The Slim Jim Battle Royal, you know, LA Knight defeated Sheamus on SmackDown, then LA Knight was one of two guys that actually got an entrance. They had a bunch of jobber entrances, then LA Knight came out, then AJ Styles came out, and then Omos came out as well as a surprise entrant, if you will. And then we had the 25-man Battle Royal. But because LA Knight was kind of getting a little spotlight while in the match on SmackDown, I was like, you know, I feel like he's not gonna win. He's such an obvious pick that I feel like he's not gonna win, because that's just unfortunately the typical WWE thing throughout many years. But he actually ended up winning the damn thing. I know the Slim Jim Battle Royal may not mean too much, but hopefully LA Knight winning this thing is a step in the right direction. This is what we talked about when we talked about this Battle Royal in multiple videos here on the channel, is even though it's random, even though they're probably only doing it because of the Slim Jim sponsorship, hopefully whoever wins it is somebody who's going to be positioned for something meaningful on SmackDown or Raw. And LA Knight being a SmackDown guy, hopefully he is going to be in the running, whether it's for a United States Championship match or just in the running for something big, something interesting on television that keeps him on television every week, some kind of meaningful feud. Hopefully that's what's next for LA Knight. We had Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey in the MMA rules match, and I gotta be honest, I think the MMA rules really cuff the hands of these women in this match. I think they're capable of more. Yes, even Ronda Rousey, somebody who I've been hard on in the past, but you guys heard me in my prediction video, man, and I even said it, I think, in another video this past week as well, whenever it was. I think Baszler and Rousey was one of the best built feuds on this show. It was, in my opinion, it's been the best story of the women's division in all of 2023. In the matter of 5 weeks, they made me care about this feud. They made it personal without making it cringe. I thought they did a great job building up this story, but unfortunately the execution at SummerSlam, not so hot. And again, I think they could have done better, at least if it was just a little bit more of a brawl on the outside, this, that, and the other, whatever it may have been, if they didn't have the MMA rules. But remains to be seen. I don't know if we're going to get a rematch. Shayna Baszler did defeat Ronda Rousey, which I was happy about. You know, I'd love to see Baszler challenging Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship on Monday Night Raw in the near future. All remains to be seen. But as for SummerSlam, the execution on this feud was kind of disappointing, is what it is. I don't know if this is going to be the last we see of Ronda, but hopefully it's not the last we see of Shayna Baszler in spotlighted roles on premium live events. Gunther retaining his Intercontinental Championship over Drew McIntyre. This is a good matchup here. Definitely not. I thought it could have been on the level of Gunther and Sheamus at Clash of the Castle last year, and maybe if the not that the crowd wasn't into this, but maybe if it felt a little bit more important going into SummerSlam and had a little bit more time, maybe it could have reached that level, but it did just feel a little bit like it was just another match on the card. And obviously Gunther and McIntyre still went out there and had a great matchup for what they did, but I do think they are capable of more. Remains to be seen if we're going to get another matchup. I mean, Gunther won, I don't want to say pretty definitively, if that's the word I'm looking for, because he kind of knocked McIntyre off the top rope, hit like 2-3 moves, hit the powerbomb, and got out of there. So maybe they'll run this back, but honestly, I could really see McIntyre turning heel soon. That's at least what I've been calling for in a lot of videos for months here on the channel. What if he's going to do that remains to be seen, but like there's definitely some lineups, I should say, some feuds on Monday Night Raw for McIntyre if he's not going to challenge Gunther or challenge, you know, whoever for the Intercontinental Championship or World Heavyweight Championship. There's definitely some stuff for McIntyre to do on Monday Night Raw, like a feud with Cody Rhodes. I think it'd be great as an initial heel feud for McIntyre. Remains to be seen what's going to happen. And on the flip side, with Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship, if he's not going to fight McIntyre again, very interested to see who's going to be next up. Chad Gable really came to the limelight, if you will, over this last week as, hey, maybe Gable's going to be a guy they're going to start building up to possibly take down Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. And obviously, if that happens, I don't expect it to be anytime soon, considering I believe they said last night we're 30-something days away from Gunther becoming the longest reigning Intercontinental Champ. And I do think Gunther should have a pivotal match on Payback, where a lot of that build is if Gunther wins, he is going to be the longest reigning champion of all time, and whoever is opposing him, his challenger on that night, is trying to make sure that's not going to happen and also win the Intercontinental Championship in the same sense. But all remains to be seen. Gunther and McIntyre, two of my favorites, two of my must-watch guys on Monday Night Raw, so definitely looking forward to seeing what's next for them. And speaking of looking forward to seeing what's next, we got the World Heavyweight Championship match, Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. This was a great matchup here, probably the match of the night. They definitely upped the ante from Money in the Bank, and if you guys have been watching my recent videos, I wasn't huge on their Money in the Bank match. Felt like they held back a little bit because they knew this matchup was coming up. It kind of felt just like a normal Monday Night Raw main event. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but this was what I was hoping for at Money in the Bank. Great contest, tons of great near falls between Balor and Rollins at the end. I really thought Balor, I mean, listen, you guys heard me in the prediction video. I could have seen this going either way, and that includes Damian Priest. I could have seen Rollins, Balor, or Damian Priest leaving SummerSlam as World Heavyweight Champion. So because of that, I was biting on every near fall that much more. I thought Balor had this a couple of times. And of course, Damian Priest and the rest of the Judgment Day ended up coming out there, ended up being involved in the finish when Damian Priest slid the briefcase into Finn Balor to try to help him. Referee's back was turned. Rollins curb stomping Balor on the briefcase to aid him in retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. And Damian Priest did not cash in, so Rollins leaves, surprisingly in my eyes, as World Heavyweight Champion. And listen, a big reason why Rollins, even though I could have seen him leaving SummerSlam as champion, was kind of at the bottom of the three to leave. It's not that I don't want to see Rollins as world champion, because I'm all fine with him holding that belt, but I was looking at the Monday Night roster, excuse me, as you guys have heard me say, and I'm looking, and really, you know, Rollins doesn't have a lot of options as challengers outside of the Judgment Day. Who's stepping up right now to fight Seth Rollins for the World Championship? McIntyre's involved with the feud. He just lost to Gunther. Gunther's the champion. Cody, I don't see going after the world title. Lesnar's probably about to take a break. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, tag team champions. Like, there's not that many options on Monday Night Raw for Rollins to defend the world title against, which is a big reason why I thought he was going to lose the title here, especially because then you could have easily set up a Balor versus Rollins, you know, third match, make it a trilogy at Payback if they wanted to. But I don't know. All remains to be seen. We didn't get a Damian Priest cash in. I could easily see them giving us a cash in on Monday Night Raw. Would be pretty crazy to see a cash in back to back like that. Iyo Sky on SummerSlam, 2 nights later, Damian Priest on Raw. Remains to be seen, especially with Payback coming up, you know, in just less than a month. You know, I could easily see Payback being Balor, Priest, and Rollins in a triple threat for the World Championship. I don't know. But it is a very interesting situation, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen on Monday Night Raw, because, again, I don't know who's next for Rollins if he's not going to fight somebody in the Judgment Day again. And listen, considering Balor lost 2 pay-per-views in a row now, I don't want to see him really get another World Championship match just for the sake of getting one, if that makes sense. Like, I thought him winning the championship and then possibly Priest cashing in afterwards could set up a triple threat match finally for Payback, but I don't know where they're going. I guess that's, you know, one of the good parts, right? It's fun when it's unpredictable. So Rollins wins. Great matchup. And then speaking of triple threat matches, we got the WWE Women's Championship match. Asuka defending against Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. I gotta be honest, I felt like I was in a minority when it came to appreciating and really being excited about what happened in the main event of this show, and I felt like I was in a minority with this triple threat match because a lot of people seem to enjoy this on social media. I really wasn't that into it. I think a lot of the reason why I wasn't that into it is because several times throughout this matchup, it looked like they were just not blowing spots, but just completely not landing on a ton of them. Like, Charlotte just completely whiffed a moonsault to the outside. Looked like she was gonna knock, I don't know if it was Asuka or Bianca to the outside at one point, just completely missed her. Like, I don't know, they just felt like the crowd really wasn't into us. They were in a bad spot. Like, it just felt like everything just was just going against the grain in this matchup, but it just really wasn't connecting. The last couple of minutes, credit where it's due, they definitely revved it up, and I think people got invested after they thought Bianca was about to win the title off a beautiful 450 into the figure 8 on Charlotte. That looked like an awesome spot, could have been a great finish. I think that really got people excited and definitely gained my interest a little bit more in the matchup. But overall, man, I just really wasn't into this triple threat. And listen, you guys heard me say I thought this could have been a banger matchup, but unfortunately I just didn't think it was. A lot of people seem to disagree, which, hey, that's fine. I hope everybody enjoyed it, but I just wasn't a huge fan. However, again, credit where it's due, the last few minutes of this matchup, very good, very exciting. Charlotte had the figure 8 in on Bianca Belair, but Asuka came in, hit the blue mist on Charlotte, and I believe Bianca rolled up Asuka, a small package, to get the victory and become the new women's champion. Of course, Iyo Sky cashing in after the matchup to become WWE Women's Champion, which I'm very excited that Iyo Sky, for one, just had a successful cash-in, because that is something we speculated on a couple of weeks ago, is I had this feeling like Iyo Sky was going to fail her cash-in. I don't know why. I'm glad she didn't, you know, and especially coming out of this pay-per-view where I was like, I really don't know where they're going to go, because I feel like Bianca and Charlotte is a one-on-one match they want to save for WrestleMania 40. Looking at the rest of the SmackDown brand, and now that Iyo Sky's the champ, maybe Shotzi's going to get involved. Obviously, Bayley and Iyo, there's been tension on and off between those two women, so they definitely got some options on SmackDown, but I thought Iyo Sky leaving as champion was honestly the best decision, if you will. And I would love to see Iyo versus Asuka in the near future. I know they're both technically heels, but like Iyo kind of got that babyface like reaction, and if you split her apart from Bayley, Iyo I think is just going to be the natural babyface of the two right now. I'm not saying they need to rush into something like that, but down the line, at least during during Io's reign as champion, we definitely need to get Iyo versus Asuka. And I say during that reign because I don't know how long Io's going to have this championship. I unfortunately could see an expiration date on it, meaning the end of the year, beginning of next year, if they are going Bianca versus Charlotte for the title at WrestleMania. However, I think that matchup, the WWE can sell that as big enough where it doesn't need a championship, but all remains to be seen. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here. Iyo Sky leaving as champion, I thought was the best decision they could have made for the SmackDown Women's Division right now. And that was SummerSlam, man. I thought it was a solid show. Again, for me, it felt like it flew by, and I think it was like, I don't think it got over till after midnight, but I don't know. I felt it flew by. The only thing that kind of drug a little bit was the triple threat match for the women's title, but again, it picked up near the end, so even though I wasn't a fan of the huge matchup, fan of the overall matchup, I still thought it was half decent those last few minutes. Let me know what you thought of SummerSlam down below, and we will definitely be breaking some stuff down more in depth on the channel this week. I'm probably gonna end up talking about Jimmy versus Jey again, so stay tuned. And of course, we got Monday Night Raw tomorrow night, which I'm sure is gonna give us a lot of answers on what's next heading into Payback for the Intercontinental Championship, for the World Heavyweight Championship. Who knows? Maybe Damian Priest is going to cash in his briefcase tomorrow night on Raw. All remains to be seen. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and go follow me across all social medias at NoahNation Vlogs, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.